Hi guys, PJ from Roland here, and today I'm going to be showing you through the SP-404 Mark II firmware version 3.0. This massive update adds a stack of new features for new performance workflows, a majorly boosted DJ mode, improved MIDI sync implementation for jamming with external instruments, and loads of additional enhancements. In version 3.0, the sequencer has now been upgraded to provide improved stability for playing back multiple samples. This is great for jamming with files from your recording sessions or bounce straight from your DAW. In this example, I've bounced out some 8-bar files from my DAW. I've sequenced these files using TR-Rec to play on the first beat. Now that they are playing back in sync, I can finger drum, drop new samples, and manipulate my track with effects. Now, with the upgraded version 3.0 MIDI clock output, I can confidently sync external instruments to my session for expanded performances. If you go to Utility and System, and then go to the MIDI menu, you can turn MIDI sync out to on. This will now send MIDI clock and start-stop to any attached hardware. If you need to finesse sync timing, you can go to Utility, then MIDI tab, and then set the sync delay value to tighten it up. Here I have the MC101 attached via MIDI and running into my external input. If I go to the pattern sequencer, when I start a pattern playing on the SP, it will also start the clock on the MC101, so now I can drop in new synth layers on the fly. On top of adding external instruments, it is now possible to mute and automate playing pads in the pattern sequencer. This is great for using with my extended multi-track audio files to create dynamic changes and arrange my performance on the fly. To do this, enter the pattern sequencer and choose the pattern you want to edit. Then press Pattern Select to access your bank of samples. Once you're in here, press Shift, Reverse and Remain to enter pad mute mode. The pads will now turn white. If you press Record now, when you mute pads, it will record the pad mute automation and play it back. If you would like to delete some pad automation, just press Delete and hold a pad. If we press Shift and Reverse, we can turn the pad automation off, and if we press Shift and Remain and Reverse, we can turn it back on again. Another really cool feature is now, whilst in pattern record, you can also motion record your effects movement. This lets me add even more detail and movement to my patterns. To do this, press Pattern Select and choose your pattern. This works in both TR-Rec and real-time modes, but in this example, I'm going to press Record to enter real-time recording. I can now press the Mark button to start motion recording. Notice that it also records me turning the effects on or off. When you have recorded your movements, you can then press Start End to turn playback on or off, you can press Shift and Mark to delete your motion recording. You can now easily make a bunch of variations of a single master pattern. If I take the pattern I was just working with, I can quickly copy specific samples from this and paste them into a new pattern. So this will make it really easy for me to make a bunch of different variations of my main pattern, like just drums and bass, for example, or just sample and bass. Then I would be able to play them back to create a song structure, or even use pattern chain to lock in an arrangement and jam over the top of it. To do this, when copying a pattern, I'll press Remain when the pattern is selected. And then using the pads, I can choose which samples I want to include in the new pattern. So here I'm just going to choose my drums and my bass. And then I'm going to press Remain again and choose a pad to copy to. Now when I press Enter, you will hear I have a new pattern with just drums and bass. You can now convert or bounce your patterns to audio samples. This helps to convert complex musical moments, like the pattern I was just playing, into easily manageable samples. To do this, press Pattern Select, and I'm going to choose this pattern. Then if we press Copy and we choose the pattern, now if we press Pattern Select, you can see at the top of the destination it has changed to sample. I'm going to put my new sample here, and then we press Copy again to bounce the pattern to the pad. When you're in the copy screen and you've selected your pattern, you can use the Remain button to choose which samples you want to include when converting. This makes it easy to bounce out the separate parts as stem groups. So for example, if I choose just these pads, this will bounce just the sample and the bass together. If I now press Remain again, press Pattern Select to create a sample and choose this pad. Now when I press Copy, here I will have a new bounce file with just the sample and the bass. One-shot playback is another new function that's been added that allows for other ways to jam with your longer audio files. This function means that samples will play in their entirety and not re-trigger if the pad is pressed again or triggered by the pattern sequencer. To show you how this works, I have a 32-bar evolving melody and I will make this a one-shot trigger. To make this sample a one-shot trigger, hold the value knob and press the gate button. When it is activated, you will see the gate button pulse. Now when I press the pad afterwards, it will not re-trigger. This is very useful because it allows us to do some interesting things in the pattern sequencer. So if I press Pattern Select and create a new one-bar pattern in TREC mode, now I can choose my sample and I can put it on the first beat. And now it will trigger and then not re-trigger until it reaches the end of the 32-bar sample, when it will re-trigger and start again. So now I can add drums and bass into my sequence. I can now even add things like acapellas. Or I can even add synth sequences. This means you can create live jams with evolving patterns while still working in a one-bar structure. Another new added benefit, which helps you get right into your performance, is setting the effect loaded to the MFX button on startup. To do this, press Shift and Pad 13 to enter the utility menu, then go to the EFX settings menu and use knob C3 to scroll all the way to Other. Then go to MFX Top and you can choose the effect you would like to be loaded on startup. You can now also save your effects parameters, so when you start up the unit, the effects will be at the right value. For example, this is very useful to maintain reverb settings for your patterns. To do this, put your effects on the desired settings, then hold Shift and mark for 3 seconds. You will see a confirmation pop up on the screen. In version 3.0, we also see DJ mode getting a massive boost. This adds a load of new features for taking this performance style even further. Cue points can now be added to audio files and can be used in DJ mode. They can be used to start the audio from a certain position, jump to different sections of a song, or other performance tricks. One way to add these into your files is to go into the chop menu by pressing Shift and Start End. In here, you can control the cursor using C1 and then enter a cue point by pressing Mark. You can then adjust the cue point using C2. Alternatively, you can enter cue points directly in DJ mode. If you hold Shift, you can see the cue points for track 1 on the left-hand side and cue points for track 2 on the right-hand side. Here we have the start of the track and the cue point that I entered in chop mode. To enter a new cue point in real time, just press Shift and Mark. If you would like to delete a cue point, press Shift and Delete and the pad. You can jump directly into the waveform edit screen from DJ mode by pressing Shift and Start End. In here, you can adjust your cue points very accurately. As mentioned previously, version 3.0 provides enhanced MIDI clock output stability. Much like with my patterns, I can sync external instruments to my DJ set for layering up other ideas and live remixing. Here you can see I have my Ira Compact T8 attached and it's going to be playing some additional percussion. Pressing play on my track in DJ mode will also start the MIDI clock on the T8. Now if I increase the BPM on the SP, the BPM will also increase on the T8. I now also have the option to set my external instrument to sync to the bend plus and minus controls. As you can hear, when I bend the pitch, the T8 stays in time with the song. You can access this in the Utility menu under the MIDI tab. And if the bend value is too small or too large, you can adjust the bend sensitivity in the General tab of the Utility menu. When you're prepping your songs for mixing or matching loop tempos with your patterns, you may need more precise BPM adjustment, allowing your audio to sync up just right. You can now access BPM settings of up to 2 decimal points by going into the pitch speed page. Then turn the value knob to the right and set the BPM setting to manual F. This will allow you very fine adjustment to the BPM. In the new update, you are now able to quantize your patterns after recording. This helps correcting mistakes or tightening up the timing. To do this, press Pattern Select. Then we press Pattern Edit. We can then choose a pattern to edit. I have a pattern here with some hi-hats that were played in unquantized. If we then press Record Setting, we can now use C2 and C3 to adjust the quantized grid setting and the quantized strength. I'm going to put this on 8 and the strength on 100. Choose the pad you would like to quantize, and then to add the correction to the pattern, press in the value knob. Now you can hear the hi-hats have been quantized. Here I only quantized one pad, but you can change several pads at the same time if needed. There is now the ability to copy patterns, samples, or even full banks to other projects, making it much easier to clean up and reorganize projects. To copy a sample or a pattern, press copy, and as you can see, there is a new value above the destination. You can then use the C3 knob to choose which project you would like to copy to. I'm going to copy to project 6. So now I choose my sample, I'm going to choose my kick drum here, and I'm going to choose that to go to a 1 in project 6. Then I'll just press copy. Now if I go to project 6, on A1 we have the kick drum. You can now also copy entire banks to new projects. Here I'm going to copy these sounds to another project. To copy a bank, press copy and exit. Choose your bank to copy. I'm going to copy bank A. Now you can use your C3 knob to choose where you're going to copy to. I'm going to copy to project 6 again. Then use the value knob to move to the destination and choose the bank in project 6 you want to copy to. I'm going to copy to bank B. So now if we press copy and we go to project 6, bank B, my files will have been copied to this bank. You can now change all of the parameters of the pitch speed menu or the envelope menu for an entire bank simultaneously, making batch editing a group of samples much easier. To do this, enter the menu and then hold the remain button whilst changing a parameter. To change the MIDI mode layout settings, go into Utility, System, and then scroll down to MIDI. At the bottom of the menu, you can change the MIDI mode from A to B. In the original MIDI mode A, Bank A would send and receive MIDI on channel 1, Bank B would send and receive MIDI on channel 2, and so on. In the new MIDI mode B, the MIDI layout will now change so that banks A to E will be on channel 1 and banks F to J will be on channel 2. This is useful as samples from several banks can be triggered from a single MIDI keyboard without changing the MIDI channel. Or the SP can be used to send MIDI to other devices, like Ableton's drum rack for example. In addition to MIDI note functionality, this new mode also receives program change messages using these MIDI channel assignments. This allows you to move through up to 80 patterns on one MIDI channel. Also, in this MIDI menu, you can choose whether the SP sends out notes via MIDI. This can be useful to not send unwanted MIDI note data when connected to external devices. It is now possible to set the release time on gated samples. To do this, take a gated sample, go into envelope mode and adjust the release time with C3. The SP-404 app has also been updated. This allows for much faster transfer of files from your computer to the SP. You now also have the ability to load the SP-404 editor app in your DAW. This gives you all the functionality of the standalone editor app inside your favorite DAW. So there you go guys, those are the new features in the SP-404 Mark II 3.0 update. Go and grab the update from the Roland.com website and be sure to register your SP-404 Mark II for all the latest info. Thanks a lot for listening and I'll see you next time.